Why is the mind so loud? It replays old arguments. It worries about a future that has not yet happened. It is a storm of noise that never seems to settle. We search for an off switch, a moment of peace. But what if peace isn't about stopping the noise? What if it's about finding the silence that already exists right beneath it? This was the storm that haunted Elara. She was a musician, a composer, whose life was once defined by beautiful sounds. Now, her studio was a silent monument to her struggle. She would sit at her grand piano, the polished keys reflecting her tired eyes, but her fingers remained still. The music was gone. In its place was a relentless static, the voices of critics from years ago, the looming dread of future deadlines, the constant gnawing whisper of self-doubt telling her she wasn't good enough. She would try to write, to find a single chord, but all she could hear was the noise. Her mind was a chaotic orchestra where every instrument played a different, clashing tune. She had lost her song to the noise. One afternoon, the pressure became unbearable. The four walls of her studio felt like they were closing in, amplifying the cacophony in her head. She had to escape. She fled her apartment, walking aimlessly through the city streets, the urban clamor, a faint echo of the storm within. Her feet, seemingly with a will of their own, led her down familiar old streets, turning corners she hadn't turned in years. She found herself standing before a place from her childhood, the city's ancient, silent library. Its stone facade seemed to absorb the city's noise, promising a sanctuary within. Hesitantly, she pushed open the heavy oak doors and stepped inside. The change was immediate. A profound, sacred quiet settled over her, a quiet so deep it felt like a physical presence. The air smelled of old paper and wood polish. Dust motes danced in the long shafts of afternoon light slanting through the high arched windows, and it was there she saw him, an old man, the librarian, moving with a slow, deliberate calm that seemed to be the very source of the room's peace. He sorted books on a cart, each movement precise, unhurried, and full of a quiet grace. He was the picture of tranquility. Elara watched him for a long time, a strange sense of hope beginning to flicker within her. She approached his cart, her own footsteps sounding like intrusions in the hallowed silence. She leaned in and whispered, half joking, to hide the desperation in her voice. I wish my mind could be like this room. It's so loud, I can't even think anymore. The librarian, whose name she later learned was Elias, looked up. He had kind eyes that seemed to understand everything without her needing to say more. He offered a soft, gentle smile. He did not speak. Instead, he beckoned her to follow him. He led her through the towering shelves to a small, secluded wooden desk tucked away in a quiet corner. From a drawer, he produced a single object, a metal tuning fork. He tapped it lightly against the desk. A low, clear, perfect hum filled the space around them. The single note vibrated, pure and unwavering. Elara stared at it, confused. I don't understand. Elias finally spoke, his voice as soft as the turning of a page. Your mind is not loud, Elara. It is out of tune. You have spent so long listening to the static, you've forgotten how to hear the note. The note is always there, but the static distracts you. He then gestured with an open hand to the entire library, the endless rows of shelves stretching up into the shadows. This library, he said, is full of noise. Thousands of books, thousands of voices, stories, arguments, histories, and ideas. If I tried to read them all at once, if I let every voice speak at the same time, I would go mad. The noise would be deafening. He paused, letting his words settle in the quiet air. My job is not to read every book. My job is to be the space that holds the books, to know where they are, to honor them, but not to become them. Your mind is the same. He looked directly at her, his gaze kind but firm. The thoughts are not the problem. The problem is you think you are the thoughts. You are not the noise, Elara. You are the quiet that is listening to it. You are the librarian, not the library. The words struck Elara like a bolt of lightning. The librarian, not the library. In that instant, everything shifted. She saw her entire struggle in a new light. All this time, she had been fighting her thoughts. She had been wrestling with her doubts, trying to argue with her fears, trying to force them into silence. But that fight, that resistance, was what made them so loud. It was like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The more she pushed, the more forcefully it erupted to the surface. She didn't need to stop her thoughts. She just needed to stop being them. She could be the space, the quiet observer. She closed her eyes and pictured it. Her anxieties, her self-criticisms, the memories of failure, they weren't her. They were simply books on a shelf in the vast library of her mind. She could see them. She could acknowledge their presence. She could even read their titles. But she didn't have to open them. She didn't have to live inside their stories. A profound sense of release washed over her. It was a physical sensation, as if a volume knob that had been cranked to maximum for years was finally, gently being turned down. The roaring static in her head subsided into a distant hum, and beneath it, for the first time in a long time, she could feel a sliver of silence. The true test came when she returned to her studio. She sat at her piano, the familiar dread beginning to creep in. The old noise, the voices of doubt and worry, started to rise. What if you can't write anything? You've lost it. But this time, something was different. Elara didn't fight it. She didn't argue. She simply pictured the old librarian nodding gently at a book before placing it on a shelf. She acknowledged the thought, "Hello, doubt." And then she let it be. She let it sit there on its shelf. She placed her hands on the keys, but instead of trying to force a melody, she did something new. She listened. She listened past the noise. She listened to the silence beneath it, the quiet, empty space she had discovered in the library. And from that deep, peaceful quiet, a single, clear note emerged. Then another, and another. A new, fragile melody began to form. A melody born not from struggle, but from stillness. The music flowed from her fingertips, simple, pure, and true. Elara closed her eyes, a smile gracing her lips. She was playing her song again. The moral of this story is that a quiet mind is not an empty mind. It is a mind that has learned to be the space rather than the noise. Peace is found not by silencing our thoughts, but by learning to observe them without becoming them. You are the librarian, not the library. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, remember to like and subscribe for more content that helps you find the quiet within.